I'm Hudson Smith, a partner here at Thoma Bravo, and today on Behind the Deal, we'll unpack our acquisition of Mailgun with insights from our former CEO, Will Conway, and former CTO, Josh Odom. All right, Will and Josh, welcome to Miami. Thanks for coming down from San Antonio. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Hudson.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Well, Will, would love to hear about the start of your career. You joined Rackspace just out of college and were there for, I think, about 5 years before starting Mailgun within Rackspace. It was one of the largest technology companies, I think, in San Antonio and most successful at the time. And so just, curious how that experience at Rackspace, a big company, helped you, start this interesting entrepreneurial venture called Mailgun.
Yeah, no, it's been an exciting ride, and looking back on it, it's pretty unique that where I'm now is kind of still working with the same people that I was working with that long ago. Really, I was waiting for my girlfriend to finish school, and we were going to move to Houston. And while I was doing that, I needed a job. So I worked at a company that did BI, and they were not doing as well. So I called a good buddy of mine, Josh, and I said, "Hey, man, I hear you're having a good time at Rackspace. I hear they're doing some interesting stuff. Can you tell me more?" And Rackspace was really trying to be early to cloud. So they had an asset that they had named Moso, completely separate. And back then, really most of the go-to-market was around self-service, me being a sales guy. So it meant going from kind of a traditional sales role where you're talking to people and you're going to conferences and stuff like that to online chatting, selling cloud sites for $150 a pop. So a lot of it was me coming in and taking the chat and copying it and posting it to Josh and asking him, what is the actual way to answer this? And then I would put some sales flavor on it. And, that was kind of the second graduation of our relationship after being college friends.
Well, I knew Josh was responsible for a lot of this, but I didn't realize he got you your first job as well. Hey, Josh, please talk about your 8 years at Rackspace and how it prepared you to be CTO.
Certainly. So actually, I started at Rackspace as an intern while I was still in college. So I would pick up support shifts at night and over the weekends and holidays, anything to kind of pay the bills. And after I graduated college, I moved into a full-time engineering role. And very quickly thereafter, our boss disappeared. So there was a little bit of a vacuum. Here I am, brand new college graduate, been doing software development professionally, not a very long time. Certainly had been building things since I was in high school, but the team actually kind of pushed me into the role of leading the team because I was the person that was trying to create a little bit of clarity, ensuring that there was direction as to what we were building. I naturally gravitated to doing all of the things a manager otherwise would do. So it really wasn't that long into my time as a full-time software developer that I started pursuing the management track. And I think for me, and still my biggest point of advice and feedback to people brand new into their career is find yourself in a growing company and industry, because
Yes.
It is such a tailwind for anybody who's kind of involved in that vacuum, right? Organic opportunities are everywhere. You kind of just see a hole, you rush to it, and good things are going to happen in your career. And I think for both Will and I, that's our story, right? When there was like an obvious thing to go do, we would just go do it, right? And when you're in a business that's growing 60, 70%, which Rackspace was at the time, that just creates so many career opportunities and learning lessons along the way.
Well, I mean, Mailgun's such an entrepreneurial story within a big company, which is rare because most startup companies that are successful have venture funding, go through the typical venture path and growth equity path and then private equity path potentially. But this was kind of born within this big entity, and it sounds like Josh was already there. But how did and I think at the time, Mailgun was like less than $1 million in revenue, just a startup product. Rackspace at the time, I think in that year, was a 1.4 billion revenue company. So this was tiny within there. How did the two of you, you know, become basically the GM and chief technology officer of this small little product line at a very young age? Like, you guys were young 20s, mid 20s at the time. Maybe talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So you kind of have to tell these stories in a little bit of a parallel, right? So while Josh and I are kind of spending our formative years at Rackspace, me in sales and development, you know, Rackspace was really trying to push as quickly as it could through the cloud. So for anybody who had an appetite to learn and kind of be API forward, the space was wide open. And we saw a lot of great technology companies emerging out of this. And obviously they're trying to run more modular. They're trying to be cloud enabled. So whoever was quick to the information, probably not dissimilar to AI, you got the first seat. So, you know, we're going, and for me, it was starting on the online sales team. And I did that for 6 or 7 months, and I was promoted to manage the team. And then it was about every year or so, I would move up, and we would start kind of a higher selling team or larger sales cycles. So online, then mid-market, then enterprise. Then we open sourced our cloud, and we were trying to sell private clouds. So, you know, that happened in such rapid succession because we got in so early and we kind of knew the technology. We were able to ride it up. Obviously, Amazon gets into the cloud space. Google gets into the cloud space. You know, Rackspace, that used to be really big, has just now become really small. So they have to go out there and build out, you know, and obviously it's going to be easier to do that through acquisition. So we had a great team that went out and bought, I think it was 5 different companies, right?
I think so.
Yeah, kind of all trying to surround the modular aspect of cloud, and Mailgun was one of those companies. So I was going to leave Rackspace, and I tell Josh, and I was like, hey, what do you think I should do? And Josh was like, well, let me ping a couple people in Racks before you go, because I think some people will be interested. He pinged this guy, Pat Matthews. Pat Matthews calls me. He tells me, I bought all these companies, you know, maybe there's one that you want to look at, but there's one company in particular that I think is really great. Yeah, it was interesting because I left a decently large team that we had built up on the sales and go-to-market side to go be an individual contributor at Mailgun. And kind of looking back on it, it's wild that I did it. So yeah, Mailgun gets bought. The founders kind of decide that they've had enough of the Rackspace entity. They go out and start another amazing company. Do you remember what it's called? Gravitational. They changed the name. Gravitational's doing well, but Mailgun was orphaned a bit, and that was really how I got my opportunity to take more leadership on with it.
That's great to hear. Well, Josh, let's back up and just, for the listeners' sake, can you just describe what Mailgun does for our listeners?
Certainly. So Mailgun is an email API infrastructure that allows businesses and developers to hook into their application and send email at scale, which doesn't sound like a hard problem, right? But when you are kind of in this motion to move to cloud infrastructure, sending email, which you need to be reliable and robust and timely, that needs to happen in a reliable way. So what Mailgun does is you hook into the API, and it handles about 2 billion messages a day right now. So kind of continues to scale and continues to grow for customers all around the world.
That's great. And so we heard a little bit about the start of Mailgun, and then you guys get involved. You grow it pretty nicely over a few year period. How did you then convince Rackspace to let go of this and spin this off into a separate entity?
Yeah, it took a lot of convincing, as you can imagine. We, when I joined Mailgun, the first 6 months was just trying to scale it out. So we were just running tactics that we had seen work well in cloud. When you have a self-service model, there's a lot you can do with assisted sales at that point. There's a lot you can do with additional levels of support. So we were really just having a good time, kind of taking Mailgun. When Rax acquired it, it was 12 people. It got enough budget to jump up to 25 people. And for them, the company's doubling. So there's a lot of great energy. The office is in San Francisco. And, really like, I'm sure everybody has different opinions on this, but my opinion, Mailgun was, and the leaders were really leading kind of the charge for the future of tech for the company. Because of that, it was just an enormously like energetic place to be. So we go out there. I'm going out there once a week every month because I'm living in Austin at the time with my wife. And, first the CEO, the former CEO and founder decided that he wanted to move and do something else within Rackspace. So that kind of opens up a little bit of opportunity. And then about a year, after that 6 month mark, really Rackspace realized that it was struggling in the cloud wars. Being a service company at its origin, really centralizing around Linux support and making sure that they have high critical fanatical support, like this has always been Rackspace's bread and butter. So there was a debate going on. Does Rack stay product or does it go service? Well, it had decided to go more product. And Pat Matthews, who had kind of been our champion in the boardroom to get us the budget, he decided to leave. And really we were frozen and we stayed frozen. So we got an initial investment to get to 25 people. And then, for 2.5 years, despite the fact that Mailgun was continuing to grow and a lot of the practices that we had learned at Rackspace were just really complemented by amazing technology that they had built. We worked really hard to convince Rackspace to sell us, for all the obvious reasons. If you can't invest in it, don't let it just wither and die on the vine. Give it its next life. So eventually we were successful. And the day that we got the word, the day that I got the word that we were going to be allowed to sell it, I went to Taylor and I said, hey, good news. We get to go run a motion to spin this thing out. And he says, good news, I'm out, but I'm positioning you to be the leader because you have been leading it. He was leading the San Francisco office and I was leading Mailgun at the time. But I'm going to go join Ev and we're going to go build Gravitational. And also, you should expect a fair amount of the people that we brought in may want to go with us. So good luck to you.
What could possibly go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong? So I'm out in San Francisco and I'm going, oh my gosh, this is wild. Like, what do I do now? So, not long after that, we find out that Sasha, who was really the three founders, Ev, Taylor, Sasha, he came in a little bit later, but instrumental. Sasha departs as well. We have technologists that are here and they're excited about what they're building, but we don't have any leadership. So what do? I call my boy Josh Ode. I think I called you and I said, hey man, I got a 5% chance of something that's going to be crazy. Yeah, do you want to hear about it?
That's right.
Yeah, 5% chance.
And of course I said, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. So I explained to you, we're going to spin it out and we're going to most likely have to go and find a way to make it profitable because right now the infrastructure is, expensive because it's at Rackspace. And if we can find a way to have some debt be put on through the margins, I think we're going to be a lot more successful. Here's the problem. You have to migrate the entire infrastructure over, and you have to do it while we're trying to be ready to build and instrument new product sets.
Yeah.
And I only have 25 people. We don't have any more people. But the good news is if we lose somebody, we can hire them back and keep it fixed to that 25.
That's right.
How long do you think it'll take?
And it took about a year, right? From
year.
Start to finish. And during this time, right, we are meeting with any investor that would take our call, right? And, picking up some bits and pieces of advice along the way. But ultimately, we get told no about 150 times along the way while we're trying to pop the clutch, get our margins under control, get on AWS. And, here are these two guys who have never led a company in their life who are, making all these claims about what we can actually do. But during this whole time, we held things together. The growth accelerated. We continued to build and diversify the team. And ultimately, from a business plan perspective, our revenue, sales plan, our migration, we just continued to execute. And, it took a while, but we got there.
Yeah, it really was very much a two-pronged approach. What we've learned at Rackspace is that when you're dealing with critical systems, you can have the best technology in the whole world. Something's going to fail. And when something fails and it's critical, you don't want to deal with a computer anymore. You want to call somebody and you want to make sure your things are being handled. And obviously, email is critical. Nothing is more embarrassing than not having your password reset go out, or transaction email taking 2-3 days to deliver. When these things turn off, we know that customers are going to pay more to be able to get on the phone with a true expert, somebody that's mutually potent at API conversations and deliverability conversations. And so we kind of repackaged that managed offer that we learned at Rackspace, and we implemented it into Mailgun.
So you guys spin the company out, you make it profitable, you take on growth equity, you're independent now, you're growing the team, you're doing well. How did you think about picking a partner, and why did you pick Thoma Bravo to be the partner to help you scale and for the next phase of the journey?
When we talked to you guys, obviously we knew that your pedigree in doing quick acquisitions was already felt in the fact that I think within a month or two, we had kind of gotten to terms on just about everything. You understood the market, you understood our position in it, and then kind of you understood us, like this interesting, culminating, I'm CEO and Josh is CTO, but I think anybody that's ever been in our company would see us as partners, and seeing that kind of play out. So first off, you got it, like not everybody gets it. And when you're just getting bludgeoned to death in these diligence meetings, like just knowing that somebody gets it is the first step. You can't really move off it if you don't get that. Second, there was clear vision to what to go do next. It wasn't, hey, let's go do an acquisition. We had both been looking at the same company to go and acquire. Had been looking at Mailjet. We both understood what it meant for the financials if we could bring it together. We both understood the geographical expansion that this would cause. I don't know if either one of us understood how hard it is to buy companies in Paris, but we learned. I think we closed, and the next week we're out in Paris. Y'all's ability to keep pace with us and be able to kind of work on multiple streams, that was just really attractive. I think more than we love winning, we hate losing, and we really felt the pressure coming down from Twilio. Jeff Larson, this juggernaut of a founder CEO. So you were able to make pace, and the things to go and do clear. And I'll just say, I know that I'm a bit of a non-traditional CEO. I went from director to CEO and at 30, and it was cool that y'all saw the value that we brought to the table with Josh and I and the team that we built together. And I think probably you were looking at the comparison. It's like, well, I've got this guy or this guy, but this guy has a team that's backing him that I think probably carried the day. So that you saw a lot of the magic of what we had put together, and you knew that this is going to be difficult to scale going forward. That was really helpful. And you guys had pretty reasonable expectations, frankly, like coming in the beginning. As we were building the model to go do Mailjet, I don't think there was too much misalignment.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
And I would say the business still had tremendous runway. That level of ambition is what we needed from a partner, and that's what we got with Thoma. Because it was really clear what was happening, right? Twilio bought SendGrid, everything was consolidating down, and we had a moment and an opportunity and had tremendous alignment with what the right targets were to continue on our path.
Exactly. And some of the targets were big and some of them were small.
That's
and
right.
We wanted to have the opportunity to look at all of them.
Yeah.
The big and the small.
And what was really cool still is we had just such tremendous organic growth. So taking that great organic growth rate and layering on acquisitions was really magic for the business.
For sure.
And scary. Like when you do acquisitions, they're so distracting. So we had to be able to do this on a bit of a playbook. We just didn't have time to go learn the lessons that we learned on that was feeding our organic growth in our other business.
And I mean, we learned a lot from working with you both and the team there. And particularly one thing that I've taken away that I'm using, I think, at one of my companies right now is how you were always placing bets with these growth businesses. When we bought the company, it was growing 60%. When we sold it, it was still growing 40% on much bigger numbers after acquiring a couple of companies. So pretty rapid growth. And I think you always said, you're always placing these bets. I think you guys have a specific term for it, but basically, always keep those bets going because not all of them are going to play out, but you need to have these next products or these next initiatives. So maybe Josh, why don't you talk about some of the innovative new product bets that you were placing along the way, some that hopefully paid off and grew the business?
For sure. So for us, like, it's always a pivotal moment to decide when you go from a single product company to a multi-product company in a portfolio, right? Because if you do that too early, you lose focus, people get distracted, revenue slows down. If you do that too late, then you don't have enough to sell, upsell, cross-sell, etc. So like that moment was, something that we were always really thoughtful about. Our first ancillary product actually was an email validation tool, right? It was something that we treated as a feature. It was free. But one of the things we actually noticed is that we had a bunch of free customers that were consuming millions of validations, which is kind of an interesting signal, like what exactly is going on here, right? But it turns out we had people that were just interested in validating email addresses. So that was kind of an important thing that we were looking at in our data. And that led us to say, let's actually invest in this feature and turn it into a product, add some additional capabilities. And it ended up being an incredibly high margin, 95+% margin product that was kind of just a side feature for us, right? So that was our first step into really turning this into a multi-product company. And over time, we focused on expanding capabilities like inbox placement, preview features, things that would allow our customers to have higher assurances that their emails are going to get delivered in a reliable way. Because the worst thing in the world, right, is to send an email that ends up in your spam folder, or send an email where the template variables aren't replaced properly, or the links are broken. So everything we were doing around our product strategy was around adding additional capabilities to help our customers send better emails and not stub their toe, if you will.
And we and thinking about it now, we almost never built anything that we couldn't sell.
That's right.
Right, and that
you
was
often pre-sold.
Yeah, that's right. That was a lot of our strategy. I mean, we like markets where they're pulling us in, so it's okay if we think this is going to be the right way to go. Like if I can't sell it, and if Josh can't sell it, then I doubt it's even worth building. And that was just so helpful for us as we were kind of trying to surround this market. That was rapidly moving, email plus SMS plus, and you no longer could just stay in one communication medium. You really had to anticipate how these things were coming together, and at least have a strategy around it. So,
and we stayed so nimble during this time, right?
Yeah.
We certainly had a roadmap, we had a product strategy, but when there were clear demand signals leading us a direction, and we had multiple customers committing and saying, "Yeah, I'll buy that." We adjusted on the fly all the time. And I think we did that better than most.
So going back down memory lane a bit to 2018, I remember our first two meetings. I've never asked you about this, so I'm curious to get your thoughts on them, because the first one was at Hotel Emma, an awesome hotel in San Antonio, where it's a former brewery, and they put like some sort of like smoke through the HVAC system that smells like this woody. It's like you're smoking a cigar or something, and it smells really good throughout the hotel. And then we had a great meeting, and then we knew we were onto something, and so we came back down to San Antonio. And I remember we had, meeting, lunch, and then a long walk down the river of San Antonio going through, and just talking about what we could do together, the business, how we work. You were grilling us on Thoma Bravo. But yeah, just curious your initial thoughts after those two meetings.
You want to go first?
Yeah. So, it's always a little bit uncomfortable in the beginning. It's kind of like that first date.
Forced
right?
dating. Yeah.
Forced dating.
For sure.
You don't really know what to expect, obviously.
And you're dating multiple people.
You're dating multiple people,
It's
which is
weird.
only a
It's
little
getting
weird. And then, you have, Will Conway, who's a little bit of a wild card. I'm a little bit of a wild card. Like, you're always trying to figure out, like, how are these people evaluating me? There's a lot of fear, right? Ultimately, the thing that a lot of people worry about that we had to like just put on the back burner is are they just buying the company, and are we going to be gone? Like, you never really know in the end. So it's a leap of faith, right? Like everything that you were saying, the team was saying felt right. Like our ambition levels felt like they matched and it felt like it was good. But like until you're actually in the room and doing the work, you never really know for sure.
Yeah, that's right. The great thing about working with Thoma Bravo and other private equities who can move quickly is like you guys were quick. You guys were on site. Like we were moving fast. So you're just going through all of these emotions while you're trying to decide, is this the right person for me to trust my career with? This business that I've put every single good person that I knew in my entire life worked at Mailgun. I emptied, and Josh emptied, our entire network out into that asset. Like, this isn't just my employees. Like, these are people, these are my friends, man. Like, these are people that we have been together. We've been through everything together. So, like, for us, we just wanted so badly to be good stewards of the asset. And fortunately, what we found in you guys, well, in you in particular, and Peter, is that you guys thought the same way. You were in the same stage of life that we were in. You were trying to put it all on the line because you wanted this outcome. And ultimately, the best idea in the room wins, which isn't always true. You in particular was fun because, you come off as like, comb over, like tuck your shirt in, very polite. But in reality, like you talk to you for 20, 30 minutes and we get on the subject of like commerce or something. And then you see your eyes just like fire out and there's a real competitive
side comes out.
Yeah, it's very competitive. So we wanted to work with people that we trusted, but more importantly, we wanted to work with people that would keep pace with us. And yeah, that was the initial first impression.
Yeah, I'll tell you guys. So, 3 days before the meeting, I was deciding should we go because you were a little small for us. Our fund size had grown. You were 36 million in run rate revenue, growing 60%. But we didn't know that right away. We knew you were an emerging player doing really well. Our market work had suggested that, but it was a little small. And I remember pushing the banker and saying, "Hey, I need numbers. I need these 5 things before I go," because I'd already committed to going, but I was just making sure that the numbers were good. And the numbers passed the test. And it was like, okay, it's a little small, but there's something here, and we know this space, and we'd seen it before in commerce and all of that. And then we took the meeting, and this is one of really only a few meetings where after the meeting, I walked out of the meeting and I called back my partner, AJ, and I'm like, we're buying this company. And it's rare, and AJ knows this, like it usually takes me some time to develop that decision. But for this one, it was right there after that meeting. Something was special about the two of you, the way you worked, the metrics, the business, the opportunity, what we knew about the market. It just all came there. So it was one of those where hopefully we did move fast after that because we lit a fire under the team internally and said, okay, we're buying this company and we know what's special here. So let's build the plan and figure this out and start contacting Mailjet and some of these other companies and make it bigger fast so that it can be big enough for our fund.
Man, you made that kind of clear to us. Like we had in that long walk, you kind of went at me and, hey, are you ready for this and this other stuff? And I remember thinking like, hey, if you'll back me, we'll go all the way. We'll take it all the way. But if you don't, that's okay. Like this has to work.
I remember you said that.
Yeah. And then we have these like the third, fourth largest capital provider in the world who comes in the room. Dude, I was imposter syndrome out of my mind, like I'm just, right. I'm going like, how did I get here? Like, what am I doing here? And when you guys said like, no, we want the asset and we want Will and Josh and we think you guys are going to be awesome. And I had that reverberate back to me in a lot of different ways. That was so confidence inspiring for us. Don't you think?
100%.
Yeah, because like, again, and before the 3 years of trying to spin out, we had been a part of Rackspace who was in its painful initial decline. So to kudos to you guys, man, because we know what we look like. from the external. we know this is a bit odd, and that you saw it so quickly. It was very confidence inspiring, and I think that's what made it so fun to go right out of the gate and do that acquisition.
When we sold Mailgun to Cinch in 2021, I think the key diligence question for them, as well as other people interested in the business, was, what's the outlook for email going forward, right? People think of this as the very early communication channel, right? And eventually, people are going to age out of this and younger people aren't going to use email and they're just going to be texting each other or other chat applications or WhatsApp or whatever. And so, how is this going to be an important channel going forward? And, after selling the company to them and you stayed on with Cinch for a little while, the company did continue to grow. And so it appears, they don't report numbers anymore, but it appears to be still growing nicely. What is your outlook for the future of email going forward? Or will the kind of the people who, are betting against it, will they be right eventually? And this will move to other channels?
I think we're always going to have an array of communication vehicles, right? Push notifications are really helpful because they're showing up in app and they're informed by the application that they're trying to connect you to. SMS obviously gets your attention the second it hits your phone. What makes email such a valuable channel is its cost. I mean, I think we were doing the math, but for every one text message, you can send 100, 1,000, 10,000 emails, depending on how they're pricing it. So if you're trying to go and, figure out what the best possible strategy to meet this ICP is, using email as your tip of the spear is a very, very cost efficient way to do it. Also, it's not going away. Like, I don't know anybody who doesn't check their email every day, except for people that may have just exited their company. But if you're working, you're checking your email every day. When you get a receipt, you're getting it there. There are so many ways with which all of our applications and technologies are trying to get in contact with us. It's going to continue to grow. What's probably going to happen, what we've seen in this side is that it's not that you're moving away from one, it's that you're adding in addition to.
That's right.
And as we become more mobile, we want these things to find us in the ways that we want them to find us. I have a high value for things that I don't want to go to my text message or interrupt my day going to my email. And I have a high value for the tech companies who allow me to make that decision and be contacted the way that I choose to be contacted. So I don't think email is going anywhere. It was the origin of the internet, and I think it's going to be here for a very long time.
Yeah, it's a multi-channel world. Customers want to be engaged in whatever their preferred medium is. And I think what you see looking across the marketing automation landscape is the automation providers that are allowing customers to have preferences and choice. They are growing like gangbusters right now. And each and every person has their own preferences. And these platforms, profile customers and figure out like what is the best way to engage with someone for a particular type of message. And I think there's plenty of differentiation opportunities there, but at the end of the day, it's a multi-channel world, and I think that will continue to be the case for some time to come.
Well, we'll go to how about like one of our last events together? We had an incredible closing event in Texas at a ranch, very San Antonio Mailgun culture approved event, and yeah, maybe like the best and the scariest moment from that event.
Yeah. So we were trying to think of something to do that was like some type of closing dinner that you guys had never experienced before.
Yes.
Maybe push people out of their comfort
That's
zone
right.
just a little bit.
Maybe in the way that you push us out of our comfort zone a few times. So, we're going to bring you on our home turf. So we asked you guys, hey, we're going to go out to this ranch. And they're like, okay. You're like, okay, great. Well, you fly out. And then you have to drive 3 hours to get out there.
That was quite a drive.
It's in the middle of nowhere. And then you come on this beautiful luxury resort owned by oil billionaire who loves hunting and fishing, and it's all catered to. So I wasn't real sure how it was going to go. Like, hey guys, Who's here shot a gun? Not a single hand goes up. Okay, guess what we're going to be doing today? Shooting guns. Not just any guns. We're going to be playing games and trying to knock each other out and skeet shoot and target shoot.
Yep.
So surprisingly, everybody did really, really well up until the point where I will not name the person, immediately shot and then hit their target, and then jubilation swings the gun around and says, "Look, guys, I hit it," pointing it at all all of our heads.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember that.
So that aside,
Thankfully, he had shot it already.
yeah, that aside, it was great. You know, you guys kind of let us bring you into our culture, and we got to kind of burn it down in a intimate space because we really it wasn't a long time. You know, what was it? 2.5 years, 3 years?
Yeah, it was a short journey.
It was a short journey.
A lot happened though.
Exactly. So
There's a lot of war stories told over the fire that night.
Oh my gosh,
for sure.
Yeah. No, it was a great journey, man.
Yeah, Josh, as you look back at Mailgun today, I mean, what are you most proud of in terms of building?
Great question. I think I still talk to my Mailgun buddies almost every day, right? And I think as a leader, what you want to see is that when you step away, things continue to go up and to the right. So talking to some of my friends there, like they've crossed 2 billion emails a day, right? And this is, it wasn't that long ago where 2 billion messages a day was like peak volume during holiday season. So to continue to see both the technology continue to scale, sales continue to grow, attracting larger enterprise customers, a lot of the ambition that we had for the business is continuing to be met and exceeded. And finally to see these leaders who've stayed with the business continue to grow their scope and continue to do what they do and do it so well is the thing I'm most proud about.
Yeah, Will, why don't you add what are you most proud of with respect to the Mailgun story?
It's same vein, differently said. The people. I mean, watching these people grow and become leaders and do things that they never expected to be able to do, to create wealth for themselves and their family, to expand their horizons. Like the journey for us, because we'd worked with these people now for nearly 20 years, 15, 20 years, just to watch them flourish and succeed. I had the vantage point of knowing that all these people were just amazing. And when the market left us a little bit at Rackspace, we were kind of stuck. So that Mailgun could be it can be a vehicle for us to go and kind of put our skills out there on display. Just watching these people come into their own and thrive was absolutely amazing. Just a pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
Thanks so much, Will and Josh, for coming. This was a phenomenal session, and look forward to dinner tonight with you all in Miami.
It's going to be great.
Yeah. Thanks, Hudson.
Thanks, Hudson.
Thanks to Will Conway and Josh Odom for coming on today. If you like this episode, be sure to listen to next week's episode of Beyond the Deal, our mini-series where we get to ask them anything. I'm Hudson Smith. Thanks for joining us.